Greetings, peace be upon you. Uh, Today I'm going to be discussing a matter of a couple of verses. I'm gonna try and take a couple of verses at a time, where I'm just gonna try and talk about how. Let me make sure my mic is here. My mic is here. I don't know if that makes a difference. I'm not even close to my mic really, but anyways, today I'm gonna be discussing something that's very important, and I think it's a warning from the Quran on those who deviate from the Quran. It's a warning to everyone, really, even to us people who believe in the Quran alone. It's important for you to not abandon the Quran. Anyways, as always, a shout out to my brother Baba Schweib. He's doing helping the homeless. You can donate to him, and he's gonna give it to the elderly. He gives food to the elderly. This is a daily charity he does. You can read his description right here. TheGreatQuran.com is Koran. Anyways, let's jump into the verses. I think it's very important to be reflecting on these verses and to be thinking about them critically. So, so you go to 25, 26. This is Surah 25 right here. Let me just put it up here, just just for reference. The true domain of that earth belongs to gracious, and it will be a difficult day for the disbelievers. It is a day the transgressors will bite on his hands and say, "Oh, if only we had taken away with the messenger." Now, let me discuss this a little bit because the mushriks are gonna take this out of context. The messenger's only duty is to deliver the message. The messenger does not have his own guidance. It doesn't make any sense. So here's one or two logical fallacies if you think obey the messenger is separate from obeying God. First of all, let me prove to you that obeying the messenger is equal to obeying God. Let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, right here. This is Surah 4 verse 80, I think. Let me double check to make sure. Uh, is it Surah 4 verse 80? Oh, this is gonna be loading. Okay, there we go. Yeah, this is Surah 4 verse 80. Let me put it right here. Whoever obeys the messenger has obeyed God, but whoever turns away, then we have not sent you as a guardian over them. Now, normally, I don't know why they don't use this verse to argue their point. By the way, it's surprising. They just use this for whatever reason. This hadith. I don't know why. This hadith is like it doesn't even prove their point. Whatever the messenger of God made unlawful is the same what God made unlawful. Yeah, that's the same thing we're saying. And this is going to Hassan, by the way. It's not even Sahih. Whatever. Anyways, the duty of the messenger's own. Whoever obeys the messenger has obeyed God. So, if you obey the messenger, you have obeyed God. So, unless you want to tell us that somehow the messenger has no free or every, like, how do I say this? Either, okay, so there's some mushriks that believe obeying that there's a second revelation. If there's a second revelation, they say, oh, this is from God, which defeats their whole argument, by the way, because it's no different from our argument. We're saying obey God and obey the messenger means following the Quran, believing in the Quran, because the Quran is the word of the messenger, which is in the Quran, by the way. I have to find that verse, but it's in the Quran. But the thing that doesn't it's a logical fallacy if you say it's a second revelation. If you say it's a second revelation, you say it's from God, which means it's no different from our argument because you're saying it's from God. You're saying the same thing. Then that's it's from God. But if you're saying that the messenger has his own words, then you're basically saying he has no free will. That that whatever he says every time he speaks, whatever he says is from God. Then why is God testing him? That's one. What is the message? Why he might as well have sent an angel. If everything the messenger says, or I shouldn't say the messenger, everything the messenger says is from God, but everything the prophet says, that's in the context they're talking about. If everything the prophet says is from God, then why is he even being sent as a human? You might as well have made him an angel. It doesn't make any sense. He wouldn't even be an example because he's pretty much doing everything. He has no free will of his own. You know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say? So it's really a self defeating argument. Anyways, that's besides the point. It is a day transgressors will bite on his hand, saying, "Oh, if only I had taken away with the messenger. Oh, woe to me, if only I had not taken so and so as a friend. He has certainly diverted me from the remembrance after when it came to me, but the devil is to the human being as a deserter." So the remembrance is Surah 38, verse 1. Let me just put that again. It's the same verse. By the Quran containing the remembrance. So the Quran contains the remembrance. Uh, yeah, and obviously, what you have to interpolate verses in order to believe that the hadiths are the remembrance. It doesn't make any sense. And they say, well, oh, wrong place. He has certainly diverted me from the remembrance after when it came to me. So this is also referring to people, so-called people who believe in the Quran, who claim they believe in the Quran, but they don't necessarily believe in the Quran. It's talking to those type of people, and we know who is talking about. And in this infamous verse, and the messenger will say, "Oh Lord, indeed my people have taken this Quran as a bandit, and thus we made for every prophet enemies among the criminals." We know who the enemies of the prophet are. It's very, very clear who the enemy of the prophet are, or the prophet, or the prophets. But in this case, we're talking about one prophet, the last prophet. So yeah, this is a warning from the Quran to those who divert from the remembrance, which is the Quran. You have to interpolate these verses in order to say there's a remembrance outside the Quran, which would not make any sense whatsoever, because God literally only says the remembrance is in the Quran, containing the remembrance. Anyways, I just wanted to point out these verses, how significant they are, and how for every prophet there's enemies among the criminals. The prophet has enemies. It's, you know, when you read these verses with the without any bias, and you look at the hadiths, it's really like goosebumps. And if only I had not taken so and so as a friend, it certainly divided me from the members. Yeah, I just think it's really important to reflect on these verses. Anyways, see you guys next time.